Imagine an ancient city, surrounded by imposing walls that seem to touch the sky. This is Jericho, one of the oldest cities in the world, situated in the heart of the Promised Land. Its walls are so thick and high that many believe it impossible to breach them. Within these walls, life pulses with energy, vibrant markets, streets full of people, and carefully built houses spanning generations. Jericho is not just a city, it is a symbol of power and wealth. Its strategic location makes it a crucial point on the region's trade routes. Merchants from distant lands arrive to exchange spices, fabrics, and stories from exotic places. The fields surrounding the city are fertile, providing abundant harvests that sustain its inhabitants and attract even more prosperity. However, behind this facade of security and opulence, there is a growing murmur of concern. The city is under the dominion of the Canaanites, a people with their own traditions and gods. They are known for their practices and beliefs that significantly differ from those of the Israelites. And it is precisely from the Israelites that unsettling news comes. Led by Joshua, a respected and brave leader, the Israelites are on their way. They have a reputation for being a strong people, guided by a powerful God who took them out of Egypt and sustained them in the desert. Stories of miracles and conquests precede them, and these stories now reach the ears of Jericho's inhabitants. Within the walls, the king of Jericho convenes urgent councils. The city is about to face the conquest of the Israelites, and the tension is palpable. Additional guards are positioned on the watchtowers, and the city gates are locked earlier than usual. People whisper on the corners, fearing the unknown and what might happen next. Meanwhile, life continues for many of the inhabitants. Among them is Rahab, a woman who lives in a house built directly on the city wall. From her window, she can see the vast desert and perhaps the first signs of the approaching Israelite army. Little does she know that her role will be crucial in the events to come. Jericho, with all its grandeur and fortifications, is about to become the setting for a story of faith, courage, and redemption. And it is within this complex context of power, fear, and hope that our narrative unfolds, setting the stage for events that will echo through generations. If you feel motivated and inspired by this content, make sure to check if you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss more videos like this. We will bring a series of content with biblical teachings and inspiring stories that motivate us to continue and not give up. Let's proceed with the story. As the sun began to set on the horizon, Joshua, the leader of the Israelites, reflected on the imposing city of Jericho. Knowing this would be the first major barrier in conquering the Promised Land, he understood the need to know the enemy well. Determined, Joshua called two of his most trusted men. "I need you to undertake a reconnaissance mission," Joshua said seriously. "Enter Jericho and discover everything you can about its defenses, its guards, and the weak points of the walls. Be discreet and cautious. Our next actions will depend on the information you bring back." The two spies prepared meticulously. They dressed as ordinary travelers, blending in with the caravans of merchants and pilgrims heading to the city. They hid any sign of their Israelite origin, taking only the essentials to avoid drawing attention. As they approached Jericho's gates, the tension increased. Armed guards watched closely who entered and exited. The spies remained calm, following the flow of people, casually conversing to appear unconcerned. Their hearts raced, but their faces showed nothing. The secret entry into the city was a success. Once inside, they were immediately enveloped by Jericho's frenetic movement. Narrow, winding streets filled with stalls selling spices, fabrics, and crafts. The aroma of prepared foods mixed with the sounds of heated negotiations between merchants and customers. Despite the lively facade, the spies knew they couldn't let their guard down. They began to discreetly observe the city's defenses, the height of the walls, the number of guards, the timing of patrols. They noticed that the walls were not only high but also wide enough to house houses on top, making the city even more fortified. As night approached, they needed to find a safe refuge. Staying at a common inn could be risky, as foreigners were often questioned. It was then they heard about Rahab, a woman who offered lodging in her house on the wall. Her house was known for hosting travelers from all parts and could be the perfect hiding place. They decided to head there, always keeping an eye out for curious glances. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Rahab, who watched them with a shrewd yet welcoming gaze. Without asking many questions, she invited them in, offering food and a place to rest. Inside the house, the spies could finally breathe a little easier. However, they knew danger still lurked. They didn't know if they could fully trust Rahab, but at that moment, She was their best chance to stay hidden and complete their mission. Meanwhile, rumors about foreigners in the city began to spread. The king of Jericho was informed that Israelite men had been seen, and he ordered that they be found. Tension increased, and the spies were at the center of a web of intrigues that could decide the fate of Jericho and the Israelite people. The mission was far from over, and the next steps would be crucial for Joshua and his people's success. But for now, the spies had shelter and the hope that their presence would remain secret long enough to fulfill their task. As darkness covered Jericho, the lights in the houses began to glow, and the city prepared for another night under the starry sky. The two Israelite spies, already sheltered in the house on the wall, were about to meet a person who would change not only their fate but also hers. Rahab, the owner of the house, was a well-known woman in Jericho. Although her profession was that of a prostitute, she was much more than people usually saw. Living on the city wall, she had a privileged view of the world beyond the walls and a deep understanding of the people who crossed her path. Her wisdom and negotiation skills were recognized by many, and it was not uncommon for merchants and travelers to seek her advice. When the spies knocked on her door, Rahab received them with an attentive gaze. Her years dealing with all kinds of people had given her the ability to read the facial expressions and the subtlest gestures that many tried to hide. "Good evening," she said in a soft voice. "What brings you to my humble home?" The men, cautious, replied, "We are travelers from distant lands, looking for a place to rest." Rahab noticed the different accent and the careful way they spoke. There was something about them that set them apart from other foreigners passing through Jericho. She smiled gently and invited them inside. As she offered them fresh water and some bread, Rahab observed her guests. "The roads have been dangerous lately," she commented. "There are rumors that a great people is approaching. They say your God is powerful and that you have done great things in other lands." The spies exchanged glances. It was evident that stories about Israel had reached Jericho. They decided to remain cautious, but Rahab sensed their apprehension. "You need not fear," she said, looking directly into their eyes. "I know you are Israelites. I recognize that you are men of God. Our entire city is terrified of your arrival. We know how the Lord parted the Red Sea for you to pass, and how you defeated powerful kings on the other side of the Jordan." Surprised by her frankness, the spies fell silent for a moment. Rahab continued, "Everyone's heart here has been seized by fear because of you. But I believe that your God is indeed God in the heavens above and on the earth below." Demonstrating rare hospitality, especially considering the risks, Rahab offered them protection. "Stay here tonight. Hide in my house. I know you are in danger, but I will do what I can to help you." As they pondered the offer, loud knocks echoed through the door. Authoritative voices demanded, "Bring out the men who came to your house. We know you are here to spy on our land." Rahab, maintaining her composure, whispered to the spies, "Quick, climb to the roof and hide among the bundles of linen. Leave the rest to me." She opened the door and met the king's messengers. With a convincing expression, she said, "It is true that some men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. They left at dusk when the city gates were closing. I don't know where they went, but if you hurry, you might catch up with them." The men, believing her words, left in search of the spies along the path leading to the Jordan. Rahab's cunning had diverted the danger, at least for now. After ensuring the pursuers were far away, Rahab climbed back onto the roof. She found the spies hidden and said, "I know the Lord has given this land to you. Please swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to my family, just as I have been kind to you. Give me a sign that you will spare the life of my father, my mother, my brothers and sisters, and everything that belongs to them." The spies, touched by Rahab's courage and kindness, responded, "Our lives for yours. If you do not reveal what we are doing, when the Lord gives us this land, we will treat you with kindness and fidelity." Rahab then helped them descend through the window using a rope, as her house was built on the wall. "Flee to the mountains," she advised them, "and hide there for 3 days until the pursuers return. Then, follow your path." Before leaving, the spies said, "When we invade the city, this red cord you used to help us will be the sign. Tie it to the window and gather your father, mother, brothers and sisters, and all your family in your house. Thus you will be spared." Rahab agreed, "Let it be as you said." And so the men left, and she tied the red cord to the window. That night, as she watched the spies disappear into the darkness, Rahab felt a mix of hope and uncertainty. She had risked everything, trusting in a God who was not her people's, but whom she believed to be the true God. Her faith led her to protect those men, and now she would await the unfolding of events, hoping her family would be saved. Rahab's story is a powerful reminder that courage and faith can arise in the most unexpected places. Even as a foreigner among her own people, she chose to believe and act, becoming a fundamental part of a much larger plan than she could have imagined. As darkness enveloped the city of Jericho, an invisible tension hung in the air. Rahab, aware of the approaching danger, made a decision that would change not only her life but also her family's fate. Knowing the risks, she chose to act with courage, sheltering the Israelite spies in her own house. "Quick, follow me," Rahab whispered to the spies, her eyes showing determination. She led them down the stairs to the roof of her house, where bundles of linen were spread out to dry. "Hide here, among the bundles. No one will find you." The spies hid among the linen, grateful for the unexpected help. They knew that if captured, there would be no escape. Meanwhile, Rahab descended the stairs, trying to remain calm despite her racing heart. It wasn't long before loud knocks echoed at Rahab's door. The authoritative voice of the king's messenger sounded outside, "Open in the name of the king." Rahab took a deep breath before opening the door. She found herself face to face with armed soldiers and the stern gaze of the royal representative. "Where are the men who came to your house tonight?" the messenger demanded. "We know they came to spy on the entire land." With a serene expression, Rahab replied, "It is true that some men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. When it got dark, at the time of closing the city gates, they left. I don't know where they went, but if you hurry, you might catch up with them." The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Rahab pointed towards the city gates. "They went that way. If you run, you might still catch them." Convinced by Rahab's convincing act, the men thanked her and hurriedly left in search of the spies. Rahab had successfully misled them but knew that the danger had not yet passed. Returning to the roof, she found the spies waiting anxiously. "The pursuers are gone," she said quietly. "But you need to act quickly. Before you leave, I want to ask you something." The spies listened attentively as she continued, "I know the Lord has given this land to you. Your terror has fallen upon us, and all the inhabitants are fainted. We have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea before you and what you did to the Amorite kings. The Lord your God is God in the heavens above and on the earth below." Demonstrating faith and boldness, Rahab made a request. "Now swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to my family, just as I have been kind to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the life of my father, my mother, my brothers and sisters, and everything they have, and that you will save our lives from death." The spies responded sincerely, "Our lives for yours. If you do not reveal what we are doing here, we will treat you with kindness and fidelity when the Lord gives us this land." Rahab then helped them descend through the window using a rope, as her house was built on the wall. "Go to the hills," she advised them, "so that the pursuers will not find you. Hide there for 3 days until they return, and then follow your path." Before leaving, the spies gave her important instructions. "Tie this red cord to the window through which you helped us descend. Gather your father, mother, brothers and sisters, and all your family in your house. If anyone leaves the house, they will be responsible for their own death. But if someone inside the house is harmed, the guilt will be ours." "Thus it shall be," Rahab agreed, firmly holding the red cord. As the spies disappeared into the darkness, Rahab felt the weight of her decision. She had risked everything: her safety, her position in the community, and even her family's life. But her faith in the Israelites' God encouraged her. She believed she was doing what was right. In the days that followed, Rahab remained vigilant. She tied the red cord to the window as agreed and gathered her family in her house, explaining to them the importance of staying together and keeping silent about what had happened. Rahab's decision to hide the spies was not just an act of courage, but also one of deep faith. She defied the king's orders and risked facing severe consequences. But by protecting the men of God, she paved the way for her family's redemption and left a legacy that would be remembered for generations. Rahab's story shows us that even amidst danger and uncertainty, choices based on faith and courage can transform lives. Her willingness to help the spies and trust in the God of Israel changed the course of her story and made her an essential figure in the narrative of Jericho's conquest. As the first lights of dawn appeared on the horizon, Rahab knew she needed to act quickly. After hiding the spies and misleading the king's soldiers, she felt there was still something important to be done. Determined, she climbed to the roof where the spies were hidden and began a conversation that would change her family's fate. "I know the Lord has given this land to you," Rahab began, her voice firm. "Your terror has fallen upon us, and all the inhabitants are fainted. I have heard of the wonders your God has performed, like parting the Red Sea and defeating powerful kings. Therefore, I ask you to make a promise." The spies, surprised by Rahab's faith and courage, approached to listen better. "What kind of promise do you seek?" one of them asked. She took a deep breath and explained her request for protection. "Just as I have been kind to you, I ask that you be kind to my family. Promise that you will save the lives of my father, my mother, my brothers and sisters, and everything they have. Do not allow us to be destroyed when you conquer the city." The spies exchanged glances and recognized the sincerity in her words. One of them replied, "Our lives for yours. If you do not reveal what we are doing here, we promise to treat you with kindness and fidelity when the Lord gives us this land." Rahab felt immediate relief but knew they needed to define specific details. "How will you know which is my house? How can I be sure that you will recognize us and spare us?" The spies, understanding the need for a clear sign of protection, had an idea. "Here is what you should do," one of them said, pulling out a scarlet thread from his pouch. "Tie this scarlet thread to the window through which you helped us descend. This will be the sign for us and the Israelite army that this is your house." He continued, "Gather your father, mother, brothers and sisters, and all your family in your house. Everyone must stay inside. If anyone leaves the house, they will be responsible for their own death. But if someone inside the house is harmed, the guilt will be ours." Rahab held the scarlet thread in her hands, feeling the rough texture of the fabric. The scarlet thread would be the guarantee of salvation for her and her family. "I agree to your conditions," she said. "I will do exactly as you instructed." The spies nodded. "Then we are in agreement. Now, we need to leave before dawn breaks completely." Rahab led them to the window that opened to the outside of the wall. Carefully, she helped them descend using a sturdy rope. Before parting, one of the spies said, "Remember, keep this matter a secret. Our safety and that of your family depend on it." "You can trust me," she replied. "Go in peace." As soon as the spies disappeared into the distance, Rahab immediately tied the scarlet thread to the window, ensuring it was clearly visible. It was a simple symbol, but filled with hope and promise. In the following days, Rahab worked tirelessly to gather her family in her house. She visited her father and mother, explaining the situation without revealing details that could compromise the agreement. "You need to come to my house and stay there," she insisted. "It is a matter of life or death." Her brothers and sisters were also summoned. Some were confused, others suspicious, but the urgency in Rahab's voice convinced them. "Trust me," she said. "Something great is about to happen, and we need to stay together." Meanwhile, the inhabitants of Jericho watched with apprehension as the Israelite army had camped near the city. Murmurs and rumors spread about what might happen. But inside Rahab's house, there was a strange calm. The scarlet thread swayed in the window, a silent sign of an agreement no one else knew. Rahab made sure everyone stayed inside the house. She prepared meals, kept the family united, and avoided any discussion about what was happening outside. "Let's stay together and safe," she repeated. Finally, the day arrived. The Israelites began to march around Jericho once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, they marched 7 times, and to the sound of trumpets, the city walls began to collapse as if made of sand. The crash was deafening, and panic overtook the inhabitants. But Rahab's house remained standing. As chaos spread, the Israelite soldiers remembered the scarlet sign. Seeing the scarlet thread on the window, they diverted from that house as agreed. Soon, the spies Rahab had helped enter the city amid the victory. They went directly to her house, finding her with her family, all safe and sound. "We have fulfilled our promise," they told her. "Now, come with us. You will be safe among our people." With gratitude and emotion, Rahab and her family were led out from Jericho's ruins, welcomed by the Israelite people. Rahab's faith and courage not only saved her family, but also integrated her into a new community. From that day on, Rahab's life changed forever. Her story became a powerful example of how faith and action can bring salvation and transformation. The agreement of salvation she made with the spies was not just a pact between people, but also a symbol of mercy and grace that can reach anyone who believes. Rahab, the woman who dared to trust in God and risk everything for her family, entered history as a living testimony to the transformative power of faith. When dawn colored the horizon, illuminating the Israelite camp tents, a feeling of expectation took over everyone. Joshua, the chosen leader after Moses, gathered the people to deliver the divine instructions he had received. "The Lord has ordered us to march around Jericho," he announced. "For 6 days, we will circle the city once each day. On the 7th day, we will march 7 times, and then to the sound of trumpets and with a loud shout, the walls will fall." The Israelites prepared meticulously. 7 priests, carrying trumpets made of ram's horns, positioned themselves in front of the Ark of the Covenant, the symbol of God's presence among them. Behind them came the men of war, followed by the rest of the people. An atmosphere of solemnity and determination filled the environment. On the first day, the grand procession moved towards Jericho. The city's inhabitants watched in perplexity and unease as the Israelite army silently circled the walls. Only the sound of trumpets broke the silence. "What are they plotting?" some murmured to each other. "Why aren't they attacking us directly?" Inside her house built on the wall, Rahab and her family watched every movement. The scarlet thread remained tied to her window, a visible sign of hope and promise. "Remember," Rahab warned her family, "we must not leave this house for anything. Here we will be protected." For 6 consecutive days, the same ritual repeated. The Israelites marched once around the city and returned to the camp. Anxiety within Jericho grew. The king and his advisors were confused and alarmed. "Are they trying to intimidate us?" they questioned. "What will be their next step?" On the 7th day, before the sun even rose, Joshua woke the people. "Today is the day the Lord will hand Jericho over to us," he proclaimed. "Follow the instructions precisely." This time, they would march 7 times around the city. With each lap, the tension increased both inside and outside the walls. The inhabitants of Jericho looked terrified. Some warriors remained ready on the walls, but uncertainty was evident on their faces. Inside Rahab's house, the family gathered in silent prayer, trusting in the promise made by the spies. On the 7th lap, the priests blew the trumpets with all their might. The sound reverberated through the valleys and mountains, creating an almost supernatural atmosphere. Joshua raised his voice and ordered, "Shout! The Lord has handed the city over to us." In unison, the people let out a powerful shout, a cry that seemed to shake the very foundations of the earth. At that moment, something extraordinary happened. The walls of Jericho began to tremble. Enormous stones fell, dust and debris rose into the air. As if made of sand, the walls completely collapsed, except at one point. Rahab's house remained standing, firmly on the wall. The scarlet thread swayed in the window, standing out amidst the surrounding destruction. As the city crumbled, the promised protection for Rahab became evident. The Israelites invaded Jericho from all sides, fulfilling the order to dedicate everything to the Lord. However, Joshua had given specific instructions to the 2 spies. "Enter the house of the prostitute and take her out along with everyone who belongs to her, as you swore to her." The spies quickly advanced through the ruins to Rahab's house. They found her gathered with her family, father, mother, brothers, sisters, and all her close relatives. Their faces reflected both fear and hope. "Come with us," the spies said. "You are saved." Rahab and her family were led out of the city, away from the battle and the ensuing destruction. As they walked, they could hear the distant sound of swords, shouts, and collapsing buildings. Rahab looked back and saw smoke rising from her hometown. She felt a mixture of sadness for the loss and gratitude for the salvation. Outside, they were taken to the Israelite camp. Joshua welcomed them and assured them they would be safe among them. Rahab's faith and courage were recognized, and she was integrated into the people of Israel. The destruction of Jericho was complete. The city, once considered impregnable, was defeated not by the strength of weapons but by obedience to divine instructions and the unwavering faith of the Israelites. However, amidst this act of judgment, Rahab's salvation and that of her family shone as a testimony to God's mercy and faithfulness. The scarlet sign on Rahab's window was not just an agreement between her and the spies but symbolized the redemption offered to all who trust and act in faith. Rahab's story came to be told from generation to generation, not only as the fall of Jericho but as a powerful example that courageous choices and true faith can change entire destinies. Rahab, the woman who dared to believe and act, became part of the lineage of God's people, and her story continues to inspire and encourage those who seek to live with courage and faith. After the fall of Jericho and the miraculous salvation of her family, Rahab found herself facing a new beginning. Leaving behind the ruins of her old city and the shadows of her past, she was welcomed by the people of Israel. Determined to change her life, Rahab decided to abandon her old profession and integrate into the Israelite community, embracing faith in the God who had saved her. The first days were not easy. Everything was different: customs, traditions, the way to worship God. But Rahab was a brave and open-hearted woman. She sought to learn about the laws and teachings that guided the people of Israel. She attended assemblies, listened attentively to stories of faith and liberation, and participated in celebrations with genuine enthusiasm. Demonstrating sincere faith in God, Rahab began to practice the precepts of the new community. Her dedication did not go unnoticed. The Israelites, initially cautious, began to admire her for her determination and humility. Rahab not only adopted the Israelite customs, but also shared her own experience of how faith had transformed her. One day, during a celebration, Rahab met Salmon, a respected and valiant man among the Israelites. Salmon was impressed by Rahab's story and the depth of her faith. Over time, the two grew closer, developing a strong bond based on trust and love for God. Rahab and Salmon married, and she became fully integrated into the people of Israel. Together, they built a family that would be fundamental in the nation's future history. Rahab became the mother of Boaz, who would later marry Ruth, another foreign woman who chose to follow God. Through her lineage, Rahab became an ancestor of King David and eventually of Jesus Christ. Rahab's transformation was deep and complete. From a woman with a past marked by difficult choices, she became a living example of redemption and transformation. Her story was recorded in the scriptures not only as part of the genealogy of great figures, but also as a testimony to the transformative power of faith. In the New Testament, Rahab is mentioned in the Epistle to the Hebrews, in the chapter that celebrates the heroes of faith. Her courage in hiding the spies and her trust in God are highlighted as acts of genuine faith. By faith, Rahab the prostitute did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had welcomed the spies, Hebrews 11 verse 31. Rahab's life teaches that no past is too dark to be illuminated by faith. Regardless of her previous choices or the circumstances surrounding her, she found redemption by turning her heart to God. Her life illustrates that faith is not just a passive belief but an active force that leads us to act, even in the face of fear and uncertainty. By choosing to trust in God, Rahab experienced a radical change. She left behind her old life and embraced a new path, integrating into the people of Israel. Her transformation was so significant that she became part of the lineage leading to the birth of Jesus Christ. This reinforces the message that God can use anyone, regardless of their past, to fulfill grand purposes. Rahab's journey serves as an inspiration for people of all ages and backgrounds. Her story encourages us to believe that change is possible and that it is never too late to seek a new beginning. She reminds us that faith can drive us to overcome obstacles, break barriers, and achieve a greater purpose. For those who feel trapped by circumstances or the weight of past decisions, Rahab is a beacon of hope. She demonstrates that by trusting in God, we can find redemption and build a different future. Her life challenges us to look beyond appearances and the labels society may impose on us. Additionally, Rahab's story calls us to act with courage and compassion. She not only believed, but also took concrete steps that reflected her faith. By helping the spies and protecting her family, she showed that true faith is manifested in actions that benefit not only ourselves but also those around us. For the current generation, Rahab's message is especially relevant. In a world full of challenges and uncertainties, her story encourages us to trust in God, even when circumstances seem unfavorable. Seek personal transformation, recognizing areas in our lives that need change. Act with courage, making decisions that reflect our deepest values and beliefs. Extend grace and mercy to others, just as God does with us. Legacy of Rahab. After her transformation and integration into the people of Israel, Rahab began a new chapter in her life, marked not only by a change in customs but also by building a legacy that would echo through generations. She married Salmon, a man of distinction among the Israelites. Salmon was a member of the tribe of Judah, known for his integrity and faith. Their union was not only a celebration of love, but also a powerful symbol of inclusion and divine grace. From this marriage, Boaz was born, a man who inherited the faith and character of his parents. Boaz grew up hearing his mother's story of how she risked everything to follow the true God and how her courage saved her family. These stories shaped his heart and worldview. Years later, Boaz would play a crucial role in the life of another foreign woman, Ruth, a Moabite widow who, like Rahab, chose to follow the God of Israel. By marrying Ruth, Boaz demonstrated the same compassion and faith he had seen in his parents. Together, they had a son named Obed, who became the father of Jesse, the father of King David. Thus, Rahab became the great-grandmother of King David, directly integrating into the royal lineage of Israel. Moreover, she entered the genealogy of Jesus Christ, as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. In the opening of the book, when Matthew traces Jesus' lineage, he makes a point of mentioning Rahab, highlighting her importance in the messianic history. Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. Matthew 1 verses 5-6. Rahab's inclusion in Jesus' genealogy is not just a historical detail, but a powerful symbol of faith and redemption. Her story illustrates that God's love and mercy are not limited by ethnic boundaries, personal pasts, or social status. Regardless of her origin as a Canaanite and her past as a prostitute, Rahab was embraced by God because of her genuine faith. This message is deeply significant. Throughout generations, Rahab's story has been a reminder that God can use anyone to fulfill his purposes, provided there is a willingness to believe and obey. Her life is proof that true faith can transform destinies and break down barriers that seemed insurmountable. For the Israelites and later for Christians, Rahab became an inspiring example. Her courage at a critical moment, her decision to trust God above all, and her ability to change her life serve as a model for everyone facing challenges and seeking a new beginning. Moreover, Rahab's presence in Jesus' lineage emphasizes the humanity of the Messiah, who came into the world not just for a specific group but for all nations and peoples. Her genealogy reflects the diversity and breadth of God's divine plan of salvation. Rahab's legacy is therefore twofold. She is a direct ancestor of central figures in the biblical history, and her personal life is an eternal testimony to the transformative power of faith. Her story encourages those who feel unworthy or distant from God to believe that redemption is possible and that no past is too great to be forgiven. In summary, Rahab is not just a historical character but a living symbol of divine grace and inclusion. Her journey from Jericho's walls to the heart of the messianic genealogy teaches us that faith, when accompanied by action, can change not only an individual's life but also influence future generations. As we reflect on Rahab's life, we are invited to consider the impact of our own choices and to believe that, regardless of our circumstances, we can be part of something much greater when we place our trust in God. Rahab's story is more than a historical account. It is a powerful message of redemption and the transformative power of faith. The journey of this woman invites us to reflect on the profound spiritual lessons that transcend centuries and remain relevant today. Rahab lived in Jericho, a city known for its fortress and practices that opposed God's teachings. As a prostitute, she held a marginalized position in society, often judged and excluded. However, when confronted with the reality of the God of Israel, something in her heart changed. She recognized the greatness and sovereignty of this God, unlike anything she had known before. Her decision to help the Israelite spies was not just an act of courage but a demonstration of true faith. She risked her own life and that of her family, trusting in a promise and a God who was previously unknown to her. This step of faith marked the beginning of a profound transformation in her life. Rahab's story shows us that no past is so dark that it cannot be illuminated by faith. Regardless of her previous choices or the circumstances surrounding her, she found redemption by turning her heart to God. Her life illustrates that faith is not just a passive belief but an active force that drives us to act, even in the face of fear and uncertainty. By choosing to trust in God, Rahab experienced a radical change. She left behind her old life and embraced a new path, integrating into the people of Israel. Her transformation was so significant that she became part of the lineage leading to the birth of Jesus Christ. This reinforces the message that God can use anyone, regardless of their past, to fulfill grand purposes. Rahab's journey serves as an inspiration for people of all ages and backgrounds. Her story encourages us to believe that change is possible and that it is never too late to seek a new beginning. She reminds us that faith can drive us to overcome obstacles, break barriers, and achieve a greater purpose. For those who feel trapped by circumstances or the weight of past decisions, Rahab is a beacon of hope. She demonstrates that by trusting in God, we can find redemption and build a different future. Her life challenges us to look beyond appearances and the labels society may impose on us. Additionally, Rahab's story calls us to act with courage and compassion. She not only believed, but also took concrete steps that reflected her faith. By helping the spies and protecting her family, She showed that true faith is manifested in actions that benefit not only ourselves but also those around us. For the current generation, Rahab's message is especially relevant. In a world full of challenges and uncertainties, her story encourages us to trust in God, even when circumstances seem unfavorable. Seek personal transformation, recognizing areas in our lives that need change. Act with courage, making decisions that reflect our deepest values and beliefs. Extend grace and mercy to others, just as God does with us. Conclusion: a legacy of faith and redemption. Rahab's life is a living proof that faith can overcome any barriers and completely transform a life. Her inclusion in the genealogy of Jesus is not just a historical detail, but a powerful declaration that God's grace is available to all. As we reflect on her story, we are invited to examine our own lives. What are the walls we need to tear down? In what areas do we need to exercise faith and courage? How can we be agents of positive change in our communities? Rahab shows us that no matter where we start, it is possible to walk a path of faith that leads us to a destination full of purpose and meaning. Her story continues to resonate through the ages, inspiring us to trust in God and seek the transformation that only He can provide. May Rahab's journey encourage us to take steps of faith, believe in the possibility of redemption, and positively influence the lives around us. After all, just like her, each of us has the potential to leave a legacy that will endure for generations. As we conclude Rahab's emotional journey, we are reminded that faith has the power to transcend barriers and transform lives in unimaginable ways. The story of this brave woman shows us that no matter our past or the circumstances we find ourselves in, there is always an opportunity for a new beginning when we place our trust in something greater than ourselves. Rahab, a woman who began her story in the shadows of Jericho's walls, ended up being a fundamental piece in the grand mosaic of biblical history. Her decision to believe and act according to her faith not only saved her life and that of her family, but also placed her in the lineage that would lead to the birth of Jesus Christ. This shows us that our choices have an impact that goes beyond what we can see, influencing future generations. Let Rahab's trajectory serve as a powerful encouragement for all of us. If she could overcome such great obstacles and rewrite her story, we too can face our challenges with courage and determination. Her life invites us to believe in the power of faith to change seemingly impossible situations. Act with courage, even when the path seems uncertain. Seek personal transformation, knowing that each step toward good makes a difference. Inspire and help others, spreading hope and encouragement around us. Remember that each of us has the potential to make a significant impact on the world. Just like Rahab, we can choose to be agents of change, allowing our faith and positive actions to leave a lasting legacy. Therefore, let us carry the lessons of this story with us, letting them shape our lives and motivate us to live with purpose and passion. Believe that, no matter where you are now, there is a path of hope and renewal ahead of you. Just take the first step with faith. Thank you for watching until here, and don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to see more content like this and inspiring, motivational, and interesting stories of overcoming challenges. Until next time.